Friends, myself Suresh VS, welcome back to my channel. Let us continue the lesson, The Address by Margo Minco. So please take page number 12 and the last of the page. Before starting, let us see what we have studied in the last class. You see, the narrator visited Mrs. Darling's house, but she did not show any sign of recognition. So the narrator had to go back. But after some time, she thought of going to Darling's house again. After my first visit in vain means futile. In Mrs. Darling's house, I desired to try a second time. So she desired to go second time. Now a girl of about 15 opened the door to me. I asked her if her mother was at home. When the narrator reached there, she was welcomed by a 15 years old girl. And the narrator asked her whether her mother was at home or not. She immediately replied, "No, my mother is doing an errand." Errand means job. She said that her mother was doing a job. No matter, I said, I will wait for her. So the narrator was ready to wait for her. I followed the girl along the passage. An old-fashioned iron Hanuk candle holder hung next to the mirror. We never used it because it was much more cumbersome than a single candlestick. The narrator followed the girl through the passage. That time she noticed an old-fashioned Hanuk candle holder. Hanuk, that is a feast of lights, a Hebrew festival in December. So it is mainly used at the time of this festival. Hanuk candle holder. So actually it belongs to the narrator and her mother. So but they have never used it. Why? Because it was cumbersome, that means bulky or heavier. It was heavier than the ordinary candlestick. Won't you sit down? Asked the girl. She had opened the door of the living room and I went inside past her. So opening the door of the living room, the girl invited the narrator inside. So she went past her. But immediately you see that she stopped there, horrified, frightened. Why was she frightened? I was in a room I knew and did not know. So the narrator says that she was in a room that she knew very well. She knew very well because the things in that room were of hers or her mother's. And she did not know. Why? Because she was not familiar with that home. I found myself in the midst of things I did want to see again, but which oppressed me in the strange atmosphere. When she saw her things, which were kept in a strange place or in a strange atmosphere, the thought of seeing those things in a strange atmosphere really oppressed her or troubled her. Actually, she wanted to see those things and she had reached there only to watch these things. And when she found in the midst of things, in the midst means in the middle of the things that she wanted to see again, but which were kept in a strange atmosphere, it really troubled her. Or because of the tasteless way everything was arranged. And you see that the things were arranged in a tasteless way, or we can say that in an elegant way. And that also really troubled the narrator. Because of the ugly furniture or the muggy smell that hung there. The muggy smell and the humidity and dampness that prevailed in the room. And also the ugly furniture, all this dirty circumstance really troubled her. The girl moved a chair. I sat down and stared at the woolen tablecloth. Then immediately the girl offered her a seat, and after sitting on the seat, she examined a woolen tablecloth. I rubbed it. She started rubbing or moving her hands over it. And after rubbing it for some time, her fingers grew warm. I followed the lines of the pattern. Slowly she started to follow the lines of the pattern. Why? Because this tablecloth, this woolen tablecloth belongs to her. And she knew that there was a burn mark somewhere. So she was trying to find out it. Somewhere on the edge there should be a burn mark that had never been repaired. That burn mark that had never been repaired. So she knew that it should be somewhere there. My mother will be back soon, said the girl. So in between, this girl said, my mother will be back soon. I have already made a tea for her. Will you have a cup? So she offered a cup of tea to her. Thank you. I looked up. The girl put cups ready on the tea table. She had a broad back. So when she arranged the tea, she noticed that she had a broad back, same like of her mother, or wide back, same like that of her mother. She poured tea from a white pot. All it had was a gold border on the lid. So now she poured the tea from a white pot, which has got a lid means cover, and it was with a gold border. I remembered. So she remembered about that pot very well. She recollected it. She opened a box and took some spoons out. Now the girl opened a box and took out some spoons from it. That's a nice box. Then the narrator said, the protagonist said, that's a nice box. I heard my own voice. It was a strange voice, as though each sound was different in this room. When the narrator spoke, she heard her own voice. That means her sound resounded or echoed in the room. And she felt each sound were strange in that room. Oh, you know about them? Then she asked, oh, you know about this box? She had turned round and brought me my tea. Immediately she turned round and brought the tea for the narrator. She laughed. My mother says it's unique and antique. And mother says that it's an antique. We have got lots more. Not only this one, we have got a lot of antique things here. She pointed round the room. See for yourself. After telling that, she pointed out, or she showed the narrator different antique things around the room. I had no need to follow her hand. I did not want to follow her instructions. Why? Because the narrator knew all these things herself. I knew which things she meant. I just looked at the still life over the tea table. Then the narrator looked at the still life, that is work of art in the inanimate things over the tea table. As a child, I had always fancied the apple on the pewter plate. When she was a child, she was fancied. She was really attracted the apple on the pewter plate. Pewter plate means plate made of zinc. She was really attracted to the apple made on the plates which were made of zinc. We use it for everything, she said. Then she said, we used to use these plates for everything. Once we even ate off the plates hanging there on the wall. Then the girl said, once we ate on those plates which were hanging on that wall. I wanted to so much, but it was not anything special. So the girl wanted that so much, thinking that it was something different. But later she realized that it was not a special. I had found the burn mark on the tablecloth. By the time the narrator found the burn mark on the tablecloth, the girl looked questioningly at me, as if she was questioning it. She wanted to ask something. Okay, she looked at the narrator. Yes, I said, you get so used to touching all these lovely things in the house. You hardly look at them anymore. Then the narrator said, when you are in so much contact of all the attractive things, all the beautiful things at home, you will hardly notice any of them. You only notice when something is missing. You only notice when something is missing from your home because it has to be repaired or because you have learned it. Because if it has to be repaired or it has to be learned that time only, you will find out that something is missing from your home. Otherwise, when you are in contact with your things, you will not come to know that something is there, what it is made of there. Again, I heard the unnatural sound of my voice and I went on. And this time also she heard that unnatural sound of herself. I remember my mother once asked me if I would help her polish the silver. It was very long time ago and I was probably bored on that day, or perhaps I had to stay at home because I was ill, as she had never asked before. So the narrator continued. She said that once her mother asked her to polish the silver. Maybe the narrator was sick or she was bored. And immediately she asked this question, which silver? Because she did not understand which silver she meant. She meant and she replied, she was really surprised and replied that it was the spoons, forks, and knives. And then only she came to know that all these forks, knives, and all these things that she uses every day were made of, yes, silver. And that was a strange thing. I did not know the cutlery we ate of every day was silver. The girl laughed again. After hearing this, the girl laughed again. I bet you don't know. It is either. I looked intently at her. That means in a focused manner. I looked at her again and said that I can bet you, I can assure that you also won't know about the things that you are using every day at your home. What we eat with? She asked. Then immediately she asked, what we eat with? Well, do you know? Then the narrator asked. She hesitated. She said no. She walked to the sideboard and wanted to open a drawer. I will look, it's in here. So immediately she walked to a sideboard and opened a drawer to see the spoons, forks, and all, in order to see all these things. Then she informed, I will look, it is here. I jumped up. Immediately the narrator got up. He jumped up. She jumped up because it was the time for her to, yes, reach in the railway station. I was forgetting the time, I must catch my train, she said. She had her hand on the drawer. Don't you want to wait for my mother? Then also the girl's hands were on the drawer. She was able to open it. Then she asked them, don't you want to wait for my mother? No, I must go. I walked to the door, telling that she walked to the door. The girl pulled the drawer open. I can find my own way. She said, you need not to accompany me. I can find my own way. Telling that, she moved away from there. As I walked down the passage, I heard the jingling of spoons and forks. As she was moving through the passage, she was able to hear the jingling or the ringing sound of the spoons and forks. At the corner of the road, I looked up the nameplate. So one more time, last time, when she reached at the corner of the road, she looked at the nameplate. It was written there, Marconi Street. It said, I had been at number 46. She had visited the house number 46. That means the address was correct. But now I didn't want to remember it anymore. But the writer did not want to remember about it anymore. I wouldn't go back there because the objects that were linked in your memory with the familiar life of former times instantly lose their value. And you see that the things which were there, which had the values, which were connected with the former memories, had no value at all. So she decided she would not go back there because the things or the objects that were linked in their memory or with her memory and with the familiar life of former times instantly lost their value and also served from them and also separated from them. You see them again in a strange surroundings and you see that it had no value because now they remain in a strange atmosphere or strange situation or strange surroundings. And what should I have done with them in a small rented room? And also, she was not going to do anything with those things because she was living in a small rented room where shreds of blackout paper, shred means small torn pieces, and there she was using, yes, torn pieces of paper to cover the window. That means there were no window panes. And still hanging on the windows and no more than a handful of cutlery and also no cutlery fitted in the narrow table drawer. There was no cutlery fitted in the narrow, yes, table drawer. And to such a place, she did not want to take all those valuable items. I resolved to forget the address. So I decided to forget the address. Of all the things I had to forget, that would be the easiest. The narrator thought that it would be easiest to forget all the things. That would be the easiest thing for her. Dear students, I hope you understood this lesson very well. So please like and subscribe my channel. Thank you. Thank you very much.